I will
John
absorb the pain.
Whoops. Watch your button.
Oh my. Well, that better now than later.
We'll censor that.
To avoid this, please pay us now.
We all have a lot of games. We don't play a whole lot in pubs anymore, but definitely it's happened that we've been out in areas that are not as clean, maybe as at home. And we want to protect our games, not just from, soil from, people eating wings and then putting sauce on your games, which just happens, and I've had to hand wipe off cards with wet wipes and stuff, and it was not pretty. But the games do wear out, right? Especially if you're playing them a lot.
Yeah.
We all also have too many games, so our wear is spread evenly across many games, but stuff do wear out. Potentially eventually you may get an expansion or something, and then
they look different.
They look slightly different
and
because
you can tell which
worn.
one's coming up next from which set, and it's
yeah, and that's like not even looking at color matching. Like it's just this one is more worn than this one.
This card is actually thinner.
So we're gonna take a look at different methods to protect your games. Since we brought up cards already, I think the most obvious one is sleeving. Right. So we'll just kind of first just go through what are our favorite sleeve types, because I think we all kind of have different thoughts and ideas on what makes a good sleeve, and what brands we like. Anything to start off?
Yeah, so for me, I think cost is definitely a factor that goes into sleeving. My favorite sleeve is actually not even here, and I don't even know if it's being made, but the Mayday sleeves, the green packs, are the standard size. I used to buy a ton of those just because of how cheap they were, and just price to quantity ratio. Almost if you invest enough into sleeves, it's almost like buying a whole new set of games if you think about it. So it kind of adds up, especially if you were like me, and I started off with sleeving my Marvel Champions LCG, which has a ton of cards, and then I went down that rabbit hole of getting sleeves for that game, and then it came to a certain point.
Then the next LCG and the next LCG.
And then I stopped sleeving because it was getting to be too much, and I started and I stopped, and I kind of removed those sleeves, and I just kind of used them for other games. But that was one of my favorite brands, was the Mayday ones, just because how cheap they were. They're not the best quality. They do come in higher quality ones as well, but the Mayday green comes in the 50 pack with the premium ones, or the 100 pack with slightly less premium ones. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have used those, but
only the non-premium ones actually.
Yeah, the non-premium ones they weren't terrible, but they're kind of loose. So, but I used to go with those. But then I think these were replaced. I started using these after the inner sleeves. There's a camera that we can. Yeah, okay.
Just front facing.
Yeah, just front face. So the inner sleeves, they're slightly better fitting. They're not as expensive, so I would recommend those. And John, maybe you can chime in on.
Yeah. So for a long time, they were about like, I mean, there's penny sleeves that are way too loose for almost any board game.
I think we can probably all agree.
Yeah.
You almost can't shuffle penny sleeves.
No. Yeah. No.
Unless you have cards that are too big, and the penny sleeves just haven't fit. But even then, they're going to wear out.
That's so rare that actually happens, though.
Yeah.
I was just assumed like there's got to be someone who's made relatively that level of quality, but just maybe a little bit more because it's board game sized. And then these came out and they were about 2 cents a sleeve. So it's like, oh, 2 penny sleeve, great. And now the prices started skyrocketing. I know one store was like, I bought a whole bunch of these for $2. Now it's $2.50 per pack, and then they were starting to charge about $4 per pack, which is the same as some of the premium brands. Yep. Now I do like the quality on these. I do find they've got a nice tight fit, and then they're thick enough plastic. It feels shuffling them feels good. But yeah, when it's the same price as the other ones, it's like, well, that's not really the advantage they have anymore.
Yeah.
So if you find, I don't know if that was just because of supply chains when I looked, or if it's still like that. But if you find them for cheap, I really like these.
And the brand is Just Sleeves.
Just Sleeves.
And their inner sleeve. Now, I have had a few games where these were too tight. And in those cases, I actually did use the Mayday sleeves. It was a good fit.
I don't have a preferred brand. I've used Upper Deck. I've used... Or sorry, not Upper Deck. Ultra Pro.
Ultra Pro are good.
I tend to buy Ultra Pro stuff, so I guess I do have a preferred brand. But they're not super cheap. Honestly, like I tend to buy a lot of expansions for my games.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that I buy the same brand for the expansion that I bought for the main game. And sometimes that's difficult. So I've started leaving the empty pack of sleeves in the box.
So you know which.
So I know which sleeves to buy if I do buy future expansions. But I tend to not sleeve most of my games because it does get so expensive.
Yeah.
There are very few games that I have sleeved. There's some that I wish I had sleeved because I played them so much.
Legendary.
Legendary. Like the starter decks are so worn out.
Right.
You can easily tell, like, oh, I'm getting a starter card next hand. You know. So that's one of them. But there's so much stuff for that game that I have. Like I would just
you can't. It's so expensive.
It's too expensive.
Now, if I could touch on that point just real quickly, if you do run into that situation for where it's like this, you know, we've got new fresh cards, old cards, and it's actually becoming apparent as to what's what. You could kind of fix it if it's like your favorite game and you're willing to spend the money with getting, you know, a solid covered back sleeve, right?
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That would be a solution.
And like Legendary wouldn't matter because it's just a blue L on the back anyway. So it's not like it's nice art. I'm a sucker for custom card sleeves.
Card art.
Sleeves with card art on the back. Yeah. I really like it. But only like for games that are like my favorite games, or if it's like a big Kickstarter and it just happens to come with the pledge or whatever. Like I really like custom sleeves.
Or it's just a reasonable price to add on.
Or it's a reasonable price to add on.
What if you run into the problem then if they start splitting over time?
Yeah.
Then you don't have the ones with the matching art in the back.
Hopefully they match.
I mean, if the publisher is smart, they will provide you with extras. So like one example of that is Mythic Battles, Ragnarok, and Mythic Battles Pantheon. I have the custom. Actually, no, sorry, only Ragnarok. Pantheon I sleeved, but in just like random whatever sleeves. I think probably Ultra Pro. But Ragnarok came with custom sleeves, and there's lots of extras. Whereas, unfortunately, with the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Ring card game, I bought the custom sleeves for those, and there wasn't even enough sleeves in one pack.
Wow.
Like they sell them. I was like 2 cards. I had two cards too many.
Weird.
So I had to buy a whole second pack just for 2 cards.
For those two.
That's terrible.
Is that because you have the promo cards?
It might be because the promo cards are in there. I didn't know that I had the promo cards though. Like it wasn't advertised when I bought the game that there were promo cards inside. Anyways, that's another issue. But my issue that I have with sleeves, especially the more premium ones that are thicker, is that they are pointy. So like when I'm shuffling them, like, I'm stabbing my hand every 5 seconds, and that does not feel good. So maybe have you guys run into this issue as well, or?
Well, yes, I ended up having to sleeve Ares Expedition. The first Kickstarter, the cards were not cut 100% the same. Yeah. And some of them were just a little bit too big for my preferred brand of sleeve, which I'll get into. So I ended up having to switch to a thicker, larger matte sleeve, which is the only one I could find or had handy that would fit the cards, including the slightly larger cut ones. So now I have cards that are like the deck's even taller because the sleeves are even thicker. Oh, geez. Right? Yeah. And they're pointy. So they still shuffle well, but
they hurt.
But they potentially hurt.
You. Yeah.
I find because the hardness of the plastic.
Exactly. But those are good quality sleeves. Like they're not going to.
Yeah,
it's true.
Less of a chance from splitting.
If you do have them that good quality and they're pointy, then it gives you the opportunity to do the mass shuffle, which you can't do when it's not sleeved, right?
You can.
Well,
you can do the.
No. The way you just shove the two piles together.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
So that would be a pro for sleeving for sure. It's not just protecting your games, but sometimes it actually makes it easier to shuffle.
Yeah.
Especially with large decks of cards, because then instead of having to riffle shuffle, which might bend the cards over time. And there's ways around that. Probably I'm not great at riffle shuffling, so
me neither.
Yeah, that's a risk. But then being able to just smush 2 decks together and good sleeves will just slide in.
Yes.
And then do that a few times and you're done.
And honestly, if you're having trouble getting that to happen, those sharp points are actually beneficial because you can actually kind of use them to get the purchase into the other deck.
The other issue with sleeving is that sometimes once you're finished sleeving a game, it doesn't fit back in the box.
Size difference,
Yeah,
the inserts.
The insert isn't made for sleeve cards.
The stack is too thick, and the insert is not made for sleeve cards, maybe, or not made for the brand that you bought. So that's an issue also.
Yeah, some publishers are getting wise to that, and they'll make slightly bigger troughs for sleeved cards, but some just come for the unsleeved version, and it gets.
I mean, you can always chuck the insert out and then just like.
And then you can get custom inserts or toss
stack
it.
up into
There was a really interesting incident with Path of Dark Shadow.
Path of Light and Shadow.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Where if you sleeve them with the expansion, it won't fit in the box anymore. What they had is basically they had just a little bit of. You can take out the old insert and they have a small insert for the miniatures and a few other things that came in the expansion. You put that in the main box, and then you use the expansion box as the deck box to put all the cards in.
Okay.
I was like, it was a pretty clever solution. I'm like, that's neat.
But then you don't have it all contained in one box on your shelf.
No. But that small box fits in the main box.
Oh, it fits in the main box.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
okay,
that's great.
okay.
So
that's
I was
good
Then you don't have to get rid of the expansion box.
Yeah.
Although you're still throwing the insert, which I think we do a lot of times.
We do.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of sleeves here. My preferred brand is the KMC Perfect Fit sleeves.
KFC makes sleeves.
Yeah, they taste like chicken.
KFC
Fried sleeves.
Yeah, KMC. It's a Japanese inner sleeve brand, so kind of like the inner sleeves. And what that is, in case you don't know, is it's mostly for I think Magic the Gathering players. I don't know any board gamers who actually do this, but you would sleeve your cards in an inner sleeve,
right,
and then use a thicker outer sleeve and kind of reverse. That so that they're overlapping, and it provides just a little even more added protection, which I can definitely understand for something like Magic the Gathering, where some cards
have value.
Cards have monetary value, yeah.
And I have seen at pubs and stuff a single sleeved card will actually like wick water into it.
Oh,
yes, I was there for that.
You were there for that. When if water gets spilled on the table.
It's actually a bad thing to have.
It's actually a bad thing because the sleeves drew in the water.
No, it's like a
Viking deck building game. What was it called?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah.
And
interested.
so we had to rapidly de-sleeve all the cards. And try to dry them best we could because it was literally sucking them in. Whereas it would have been just one little drop in there too, and we could have wiped it off.
Like as far as pubs go, though, like for me, I would not bring any game to a pub that I would care if it got damaged. Personally, like if I'm bringing a game to a pub, it's probably because it's a small game. I don't really care if it gets damaged, or I've played it so much that like whatever happens to it. Or maybe it's it's cheap enough that I could just go buy another one if I needed to. But like I'm definitely not going to bring like a large collection,
your valuable Kickstarter.
You know, like no way. I'm not doing
rare out of print game. Here it goes.
But that may be the only place some people can have to play.
It's true.
Potentially. Yeah.
Also, think about sizes, right? Like they have mini sizes for like little games, large Seven Wonders style sizes. Definitely look up the size of the games before. Not all of them use, like the Magic the Gathering standard size cards. Because that's mostly what we've been talking about up till now.
And also, there's different standards for like European versus North American
standard, or playing card size versus Magic Gathering. Magic Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! They all use kind of the same size cards.
Right.
And there is databases on BGG. We'll try to link them below, where you can just look up the card, the game, and then what size of sleeves you're going to require.
It's integrated into BGG now.
Is integrated.
Yeah, there's a little button now that says "Sleeve my game." Just right into the game listing, and it'll go.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay,
that's cool.
Now, not all of them have that information. For some, I think the other websites like "Sleeve my games" or something like that. But
right, I will probably forget to link it below.
But it's built in, so it's okay.
So go to BGG and look it up.
Yeah.
And we'll win the sleeve games. I think we've kind of talked about games you play a lot. I would also add in deck builders, especially
games that
shuffling things a lot. Yeah,
if there's a lot of like pushing cards into other cards, that could damage them more rapidly. Cards with black borders on the art or in the print tend to show wear more because it's more stark contrast and just shows up when there's any kind of scuffs and wear. Right. Cards you handle a lot, and this will especially show up in games where you really don't want other people know the card you're holding, right? Like in social deduction games, Werewolf and the like, you definitely don't want any kind of marks on those cards because it's vital that nobody knows which card you have.
Yeah.
Like the whole entire game revolves around
game
that.
is predicated on that one fact, yeah.
Yeah, it's also the card quality. Like some of them will chip at the drop of a hat. Like I look at it wrong and say, "Oh, it's been chipped."
Yeah,
whereas
or
others can
scuff.
Yeah, some of it can withstand it quite well. So
yeah,
it depends.
Definitely happens. Keeps the sweaty hands. You know, or
when you've all got natural oils that come off no matter what you do, no matter how clean your hands are. Like there's like,
hand creams.
It will damage. Yeah, it will damage your cards over time.
Yeah, something so you gotta watch out for. All right, moving on from.
But they
from cards. Oh, sorry. Let's continue here.
One other point is just like when to sleeve a game. One other consideration is just, is it out of print? Are you ever going to be able to replace it? If it's one that you really like, you're never going to be able to replace. Maybe that extra investment's worth it.
Yeah, but don't stop playing your games. Like we always advocate, play your games, love your games
as much as possible. Yeah,
right. Even if they get worn out, at least you got the enjoyment out of them.
Yeah,
exactly. They're meant to be played for sure.
Yeah. So moving on from card sleeves to John has maybe patented or invented another sleeving method.
So let me talk about this. I call it box sleeving, but honestly, someone else introduced this to me in at a convention, Ludo Outaouais. I just noticed, like, oh, I took the board. I was like, oh, this is a fresh new game. It's got the shrink wrap on it and everything. Like, oh, this is great. I take it out and I'm like, oh no, it isn't. It's just got the plastic just left on top of the actual board thing, and then the rest of it's not on there anymore. So I asked someone about it, and basically that's all they do. They just cut off. I'll just show you right here. So we just get a knife here, preferably something dull, just to avoid.
This is a very sharp one, but
so I'll be careful with this one. This is a cheap game, so I'm not too worried. I just kind of make an incision here.
Live surgery.
Oh yeah, board games.
Pull it back a little bit. There.
Operating on your games. That's how it's done.
And once it's once you've got the insertion here, you can just use like even just your fingernail, anything dull. It's just getting in there initially is difficult, and then you just go like that. Do that for all sides.
Yes.
And away you go.
And now you had a reason for this too.
Oh yes.
So why you started it?
Actually, no, I started it before that happened. But that actually ended up saving me a little bit. Get this last corner here. And this corner over here.
Will he make it? He's alive! Okay.
Slow recovery.
Box sleeve. Though I also watch out that there's not a little bit left on the corner, and then it just won't come off. But yeah. There we go.
So why was this beneficial for you?
Because I made my own... Me and my father made my board game shelves and painted them and everything. It was lovely. We let it cure for a month. Apparently that still wasn't enough. It was slightly tacky, and it stuck to some of the board games. Ooh. The ones that were box-sleeved, no problem.
No problem.
Also, it's just like, it seemed to be like anything that was, there's like the different textures. If like it was a flat textured one, it was fine. If it was the linen press like kind,
spot UV?
Yeah, then it would actually stick, so... Don't know what happened there in interaction. I should have chosen a different paint for the shelves. But, no, I mean, it's annoying. It's frustrating, especially because of the quality of the boxes. And, I had to take off about $2 or $3 off of each one I sold. But, But anyway.
And then left little bits of paint stuck to it or ripped off paper?
Ripped off paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying. But anyway, so this helped protect against that kind of situation. It also means, like, if this is on top of a bag and... it's just slightly sprinkling outside. I'm a bit less worried.
Well, now some publishers they're not even shrink wrapping their games.
Yeah.
They're just putting little stickers on the sides, which I really dislike because then you take the sticker off and it rips part of the box off.
That happens. Yeah.
I mean, it is the reason is valid though. The reason they're doing it is for environmental reasons. Reduce the plastic, so it makes sense. But
often with eco-themed games is where they're also
for sure. But like it's frustrating when you buy a brand new game and then
or it's all scuffed on one side from people pulling it on off the shelf.
Yeah. My concern is more if, let's say, it was a Kickstarter delivery or whatever, it's delivered to your doorstep, it's left there without the shrink wrap and it's raining. Like, my game is kaput and I didn't get a chance to play it.
That would be unfortunate. I get like you had a specific reason for doing this. I think this is a bit ridiculous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I have never done this once in my entire life, and all my games are perfectly fine. Like, they will have shelfware.
Yeah.
If you don't do this. Do they have shelfware if you do this as well, or no?
No, it seems to stop. It really slows down. At the very least, it very much slows down.
But, like, so what? Like, so what? They have shelfware. You play your games, you take them on and off the shelf. They're supposed to have a little wear, you know. Like, and if you're worried about resale value, like how much does a little bit of boxware really reduce the resale value of a game? Like, I don't reduce my prices for a bit of boxware, a bit of expected boxware.
Yeah.
So to me, I think like,
oh yeah, it's absolutely insane,
right? Yeah. Well, since we talked about wear, I think bringing games to game night is a potential source of wear too.
Yeah.
Right. So making sure you have an appropriate carrying container in case it's raining outside.
Yeah, for sure.
There's lots of options. Also in size, like they do sell fancy game bags.
I bought one from $10 for $10 from Costco.
It's like yours is like a cooler.
It's a cooler. It's a cooler, but it's the same size and dimensions as like a board game bag, and it was 1/8 the price.
Yeah, that one works well.
It works great.
I've seen the Costco bags.
The Fracta bags from IKEA. They're zipper. They're just the right size for like standard Kallax.
Oh, nice.
And they're plastic, so they're kind of waterproof.
And I mean, you got to buy Kallaxes anyways. So while you're around there,
you got to get a bag.
Yeah, I'll use like the folding box, but canvas wrapped, like grocery bag type things.
Yeah,
work well.
Those are really good with the flat bottoms.
Yeah. If I'm taking a lot of games, I'll bring what's called a Cajun bag. Cajon, and it's for a box drum. A Cajun is a type of box drum, so it's like a drum that you sit on, and then
hit
the sides and stuff. There may or may not be like a snare chain or something in there or not, but the dimensions
also known as the all-in Kickstarter box.
It's the same size.
When you unbox your game, you start on drum. I mean, nobody else do that? It's just me?
Start drumming, you just sit on it. Like we might do a video of that later. But the dimensions of it are almost exactly the same as like a Ticket to Ride size box.
Nice.
And the height of it is enough that you can put several board games in one of these bags, and they're generally a lot cheaper than board game bags. And they basically are the same. They have a bit of padding, which is nice. They have a bit of padding. They're zippered. They have handles for good carrying.
Cool.
And,
you can get backpack ones.
You can get backpack ones if you're taking your drum on the road,
or your games.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. And then we have keeping your games in one piece while traveling. So we've a lot of us will use just like elastic bands.
Like to keep the boxes closed.
To keep the boxes closed.
Especially that have box lift, maybe.
Yeah.
Have the box lift. They do make these fancy, like, hold the pieces apart. They kind of cross so you can wrap them around.
Show a demo.
So, there we go. How would you do that? I don't think it's the right size. But.
Yeah, wrong size box band, but the concept is...
Yeah, I guess I've seen them called box bands as well.
I think that's
box band.
Maybe that might be like
a
company name, like a brand name.
Yeah. So something like that would hold your games well. It's a good quality band. We have John. I don't know if you want to talk about that one.
Oh yes, so that's dry vinyl tape. Basically, here we go. So it just sticks to itself and nothing else. I usually use this for keeping decks of cards together, or used to anyway. So it. It's like you stick it together, it sticks together just on its own and won't stick to anything else. It's great.
Yeah, doesn't damage cards or anything.
So it's important when you search for it on Amazon, look for dry vinyl tape. Specifically. Because... Can I tell them?
Sure. I mean, as long as we get the language clean, then I don't think YouTube will flag us.
All right. So it's also known as bondage tape.
Yeah.
But if you search for it that way, your algorithm on Amazon is going to change its recommendations, potentially. I mean, I don't know what your recommendations are, but there's a good chance it might modify.
Dry vinyl.
So if you look for dry vinyl tape, that's what this is.
Yeah.
There's also Wonder Tape, I think it was called, which is like clear and a bit thicker. Yeah.
Yeah. It will, like you said, does stick to itself, which I don't use it as often anymore because I found putting two games next to each other on the shelf, if I had wrap the entire game, they'll end up sticking to each other, and it'll be harder to pull off the shelf. But certainly for cards or something, they work really well. Yeah. I've switched to using baggies for cards, for storing decks of cards, because I used to use elastics. And while a lot of them were fine, the rubber ones will decay and crumble over age. And then I made
the
a
leak
mistake
paper.
of
They
using,
leak their color on it on the cards too.
I've never had that with rubber, but I had the vinyl rubber bands.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that like seeped oils into the cards and damaged a number of board games cards and stuff on them. So
I use elastic bands like those, just the regular ones that you get like in the massive packs at Staples or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never had issues. But plastic bags are probably the safest way to do it because then they're also not under tension and they won't like curve.
They won't curve.
Yeah.
Sometimes if the rubber band is too tight, it might over time gently curve your cards
or
a little
damage
bit.
sleeves.
Or damage the sleeves if you're going to sleeve them.
Yeah, which this has, I've seen that not happen with that. So.
Yeah, I find this to be pretty fiddly. Like I borrowed a game off John that had this around all the card decks, and I was like, I was on the struggle bus trying to get like trying to get them back in.
The problem of finding like where does this tape roll start?
Yeah.
Well, every time you're undoing a deck,
but
of
also
cards.
like every time I would try to rewrap a deck in this vinyl tape, the deck would just like go everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, gotta stack it up again and try again. So I was like,
it takes a bit of
for me.
Yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, my dexterity stat's not high enough.
So the other thing with elastic bands is you can get archival grade elastic bands. I don't think they're called plastibands, and they don't have those same issues of like if you leave them for several years, they stick to the cards and all that.
They're not stretchy though, so
No,
you
they
want
are
to
not.
look for ones that do fit the sizes that you're.
Yes, I haven't seen any of them that will be good for boxes yet. So
Yeah. You know, the one thing that we haven't talked about that none of us do, and that would be really good for games if you're going to bring them to pubs, is now you can protect your boards with like that liquid stuff that you put coat the board of the board game in it, and it is hydrophobic and it just wicks the water away.
is it called Board Shield or something?
Board Shield. There's a couple of different brands, and I know some people on YouTube have already made videos to test these things.
Yeah, I would look at them first because there might be some slight.
Or like test it on a game that you really don't care about.
Yeah.
You know, when it's already like, you know, old and trashed like Monopoly.
I don't know if I have them.
Is he looking for Monopoly?
No, my coasters
they're underneath.
were standard cardboard, and I used a archival quality matte spray, and they worked out quite well.
Yeah.
They didn't really change the colors or anything.
Yeah.
They don't stick too much to anything either.
Right.
Like there might be a slight tackiness, but they've never peeled paint or anything.
Yeah. So stuff like that I think
might be an
is
option.
really interesting. My wife is particularly clumsy when it comes to liquids at the table, as we have experienced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I mean, now I just have her put the drink maybe off to the side somewhere.
That brings up something I forgot to bring. But they got this thing at IKEA right now, which is just like a cup holder that clamps onto your table and then it sits underneath it. So there's no risk of accidentally
Whacking it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, keeping drinks maybe on a side table.
Yeah.
Right, you can get some like folding tables, and then they're not directly on the same surface as the board games. Making sure you always provide napkins or wet naps. Not eating really messy or splattering things over the table. I
mean, whether or not to even allow food and drink at the board game table is like that's a video. That's a topic in and of itself.
That'd be a host choice.
Very short video. No.
Very divisive topic.
Next video.
it probably is divisive, and
I think it is divisive.
And I think we might talk more on that, but I think it would just be respect the wishes of
whoever the owner
of the game.
is. Yes, exactly.
And the host of the house.
That's the short answer right there. Like, if you own the game, like you are the one who's making that decision, and everyone at the table should respect that decision.
For sure, yeah. Also talking about components, because we talked about spray. Some people will, I haven't done it to any of them, will use kind of like a Mod Podge or something to
What's
coat.
Mod Podge?
It's basically white glue, but there are brands that will dry non-tacky and clear. So some people will...
What are you doing with it?
What are you gluing?
You brush your tokens. So it leaves a clear shell coating.
Okay.
Oh, I feel you. Okay.
I've seen some videos of this, and
So if done well, they make them a little bit bubbly, like not bubbly.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, like
thicker.
it feels like
Interesting.
plasticized.
Interesting.
I heard
I know what you're talking about.
the clicking, clacking sound of them. I was like, yeah, I could see that being satisfying.
Yeah.
So it's like coin capsules, but like
permanent.
Rubber.
like
Permanent.
brushing.
Yeah.
Neat.
You do have to watch for ones that look for the brand that doesn't stick to other things or to itself.
Tacky. Yeah.
Because or you may want to experiment on some leftover cardboard bits on those first, just to make sure, because some of these are will get tacky after a couple years or something too.
Right, right.
So,
and I wonder, like, if you don't play that game for a long time, like, will those tokens be stuck to each other when you open that box up?
Yeah.
Like,
I need to open up the Kenu now because I painted the monolith and I haven't opened it in like a year. So we'll see afterwards.
Better hear that out a little bit. Yeah.
I'm just picturing playing Quacks of Quedlinburg, taking out my first token, like all of them come out at once. Like,
And they
oh,
bust it.
what does this count as?
Yeah.
So speaking of Quacks of Quedlinburg, I have my tokens for Quacks here, and
Quackle box.
it's a Quackle box. Patent pending. And they do sell Geek Up bits before we were looking here.
Yeah.
There's a brand sold partially sometimes through the BGG store.
Yeah.
I think Meeple Mart sells them and a few other stores. Meeple Source, right?
Source, yeah.
I don't know if there's any Canadian sources that sell them.
I know Board Game Bliss sometimes does. They have a lot of premium components. I don't know if they have the Geek Up bit specifically, but I've definitely ordered some premium components from Board Game Bliss before.
Yeah, and they're basically plastic versions of
the cardboard tokens.
Of the cardboard tokens with some sort of screen printing on them.
I thought they were Bakelite.
Some of them vary. It depends on which ones. Although I have heard that for games like Quacks of Quedlinburg, people have started complaining about their Geek Up bits that they've started to wear with time.
They're fading away, like
the screen printing on the plastic. Plastic is starting to rub off.
That's unfortunate.
With time.
They're not cheap, yeah.
No, and
they're not cheap.
They're as expensive as the game themselves, almost, especially once you add in shipping to Canada.
Well, exactly. If you're shipping it to Canada, like you're paying a lot for shipping.
They're definitely more
as much as the bits themselves. Maybe.
Oh yeah, they're definitely more durable than the cardboard tokens, but whether they last or not is hard to say.
Depends on how much you play the game. Also, I mean, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
With Quacks, I find like the standard starter bits just are immediately like it's so smooth. Like I can tell this is the right.
Within a couple of plays, even they start to wear.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with kind of an alternative. It was definitely more labor intensive, and these are coin capsules. So I don't know if you can see them here, but they sell essentially it's like thick sleeves for coins. Coin collectors. You can buy these on eBay or on Amazon. Maybe even your local coin and money collection store. If there's something in town that has those.
Exist?
They do. There's some
money collection stores, also known as banks. No,
banks.
No, there's no places.
I store my money at board game stores. That's where
they hold on to your cash.
They hold on to a lot of it.
And spend it.
What size are these that you purchased for this game?
I don't remember. I should have looked it up first.
5mm, I think.
If you find it's a link or something.
This is definitely wider than 5mm. It's I forget exactly. I think it's like 19 or 22 or something like that. But so these just snap on, and so you're still using your original components, and now they have a hard clear shell that's not really a whole lot bigger than the original. So they take up obviously more space, but they still fit onto the playing area since you have to have a bunch of them kind of close by, and of course they have a nice kind of feel when you're digging them out of the bag, and they're not going to damage them. I don't know, do you use these for, I think you use them for a different game, don't you?
Yeah, I use them for, obviously in a much smaller quantity. These are like 400 of these, so it's obviously takes an evening to do this, but for my Arkham Horror LCG where you're pulling out of the bag, I capsuled those as well, and that gives them a nice little bit more of a premium feel as well as durability, because you're constantly pulling those out of the bag almost every other turn. So just when you're doing that activity on a repetitive basis, it's helpful to maybe protect them so you're not having to replace them after playing the game for a certain amount of time, or getting replacements.
And
so
it's still cheaper than buying like the premium metal tokens for Arkham Horror.
Absolutely, it's way cheaper than doing kind of the store-bought alternative, which obviously there's a markup on those, which is fine. I mean, but
they're great. They're great tokens.
They're great, but if
they're expensive.
If you're like us and you have 400 games on your shelf, or thereabouts, you want to save your money for that stuff and try and save money on.
And you don't want to do this every game.
Not to every game.
Those are only the ones where you're handling.
You're handling them a lot. Yeah, if they're kind of sitting there on the board, or you're not having to.
And or hidden information that you could tell via texture.
Yeah, that helps as well. So Arkham Horror, I've done that too. I think one or two other games, but I I did that to the Bullet game.
Bullet Hard Bullet, sorry,
Bullet, because you're doing the same thing. Obviously, there is a premium version of that comes with the Kickstarter. You can buy it aftermarket as well, which that's not that much more expensive. So if that's available, do that. But when I was getting that wasn't available. That was Kickstarter exclusive, so I just capsuled them.
Those are in that case, those are wood tokens.
Those are wooden.
I really like those.
Those are very nice
tokens. They're very nice.
They're very nice.
They have a good weight, like good feel to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they were $30.
Yeah, the price wasn't that bad. The price wasn't that bad.
But considering the game itself is $40, it's almost the same price as the game. So maybe like this is still more economical.
A little bit cheaper. Yeah.
One thing I want to point out about these is they will sometimes have just a little bit of like tiny bit of plastic in the cast line, and you can usually get that off with just an X-Acto and a little bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, is it worth spending the time on doing that though?
Yeah, it depends.
They're not sharp either.
No.
So
No.
And they almost all have it. So you can't identify which token that is by feeling
for people
the
who
edge,
it frustrates, they can get rid of it using
Fair.
X-Acto.
It's a lot of work and like delicate work too. Like it's not.
No.
It's already a labor-intensive task.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
you can do.
So, what does everyone else do while they're sleeping games? So I know I'm watching something in the background on TV,
or toss something on TV.
Yeah, movie or something.
Yeah.
It's basically knitting, but for board games.
It's not too far from that, right? Like, it's a mindless task, mindless repetitive task, and you just zone out.
I've found that I actually really enjoy the organizational side of this hobby as well. Like, I was telling you guys, like, I just printed out a whole bunch of, like, dividers off BGG for Ashes Reborn, and I laminated all of them, and then I cut them all, and then,
satisfactory.
Organized it all, and I like that aspect of this as well. So it's like
there's a job well done kind of feedback when you're finished.
Exactly.
And you look at your game and say
usually
it's all
after I'm finished, I'm too tired to play the actual game. But I enjoyed the process. So there's something to be said about that too. Now this fits in the actual Quacks box, though, right?
It does. I have the first expansion. I don't really like the second expansion, so it's just this and everything I need, plus the first expansion in the original box. They do make a big box now, which I'm pretty sure you'd be able to fit coin castles and everything.
It's a weird shape, though, isn't it?
It's like long.
It's longer than it. I don't know if it fits in an actual Kallax. Like I think it sticks out a bit or something.
I think it'll fit, but it's just longer. Yeah.
It's like it's an odd shape. Still not as bad as certain other coffin boxes. Ever know.
Does that not fit at all?
It's massive.
The big box.
The big coffin box for Evernote?
Slide in?
I don't think it does. I don't know. I don't have it.
If it slides in, you'll never be able to pull it out.
Yeah.
Because there's no extra space.
You may have to like get rid of one of the dividers.
I think if you get rid of I've done that with a couple of my shelves.
I've done that with a couple of things as well,
Yeah, with my shelves, it's like...
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a different topic.
Different topic altogether.
Well, I mean, on a similar topic, what about the idea of reboxing games into something like a card box? Because I know they make premium card boxes that are made more durable, better for travel. You have what's called a quiver, I believe, which is designed for travel, I think.
Yeah, just a hard case, long box, deck box with a little bit more room for other additional components.
And dividers as well for separating either different games or different parts of different decks of the same game. I did that for Marvel Champions. There's like a plain white like card box. And I put I just cut out like some cardboard from a random other box. Put them in to make some dividers, and then I had it organized that way. But then I bought an organizer off Etsy that's like laser etched.
I am looking at a laser cutter.
It's already full.
It's already full.
It's already full. I have overflow in the main. I still have overflow in the main box
for
Marvel Champions, but. Definitely not a game I'm going to sleeve because there's too much.
No, see, that's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah.
It's too expensive.
I have a real hard time letting go of the original boxes if I were to do something like that. I think I would have a hard time.
It's a tough Band-Aid to rip off.
It's an attachment.
Yeah.
I
know you can fit. Like how many games have you fit in the quiver?
Oh, but it had to be smaller box games.
We fit like 10 games when we traveled on the cruise.
Right. But would you ever ditch the original boxes and just keep them in?
No,
like that?
Now, I've done something like that. I've done something like that with these, like, photo boxes.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I didn't ditch the original box either. And I'm glad I didn't, because one of them I ended up selling. And I'm like, here's this random plastic box. Like,
Expansion boxes, I have no problem ditching.
Yeah.
If it all fits in the main box, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Though there is one interesting one, which was Ancient Terrible Things, where the expansion box comes with the components to make a smaller version that you can just put everything in there instead.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's a good way to also protect your games if your expansion box fits inside the small box, the large box.
Yeah.
You can use that as a storage for cards or tokens.
Yeah.
To keep that. Cry Havoc had that expansion box fit in it, and then it was perfect size for the miniatures. And that way that just kept things from jostling around when we're traveling.
Yeah.
I think Platformer did that too, which is interesting.
I've also seen like 3D printed inserts for minis, where like each mini like it slots into its own sort of like spot in a shelf sort of thing, and then you stack them in like a box in the box.
Yeah, well, I'm not against just throwing all your minis in a bag.
That's what I do. I just toss them all in like a Tupperware container and put that in the box.
And I think they're generally fine.
They're fine. I've got like. I have pretty much everything now for Marvel Zombies, minus the giant Galactus statue.
Yeah. I've never had a mini damage.
I've tossed everything into a couple of Tupperware containers and no issues.
See, I'm thinking about what about making like some small cardboard boxes for individual sets of minis. So it's like, okay, for Massive Darkness 2, I need the orcs. Let's just take this mini box out of orcs and
For something that game is very modular, I would say being helpful, or if there's like a lot of card decks, either using some sort of organizational system. But now we're getting into organizational stuff.
Yeah.
True.
That's like a whole nother video
topic.
on its own.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on ways to protect your games?
Don't play them.
Aside from that,
No, that's not an option.
That's not an option.
Definitely play your games. Like they're meant to be enjoyed, and if they get worn, they get worn. You know, it means that you've enjoyed them that much more.
That's right.
Yeah, we're not against collectors who
if that's what you get from it.
If it is your absolute favorite game, you could buy a second copy, I guess. I mean, I did that for Port Royal because my copy was so worn out. And also the friend that moved away is like, can I have that copy that wore out? I'm like, fine.
Yeah, Port Royal also isn't a super expensive game.
No, exactly.
And like the big box is like, it's smaller than the average size game.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but if it's like your absolute favorite game.
Yeah, and then you have some parts to cannibalize if you, or to like replace if you need to.
I guess that would be the ultimate protection, is have a backup.
Yeah.
Not for all your games.
Not for all your games. Definitely not.
I have two board game collections, ones that I play and ones that I don't play.
Just have like a
display only.
A cushion, a white cushion somewhere in your storage room, and you can save your board games in the cloud.
Yeah, there you go. A padded white room for playing your second collection. I've also just thought of what about games that don't need protection?
Don't need protection.
Yes, and I'm looking at Too Many Bones.
Because it's so well produced. Everything's waterproof already.
Potentially
neoprene,
overproduced. I would argue, but
I would agree with that.
It's almost indestructible.
Era, which is basically just made out of plastic. It's the re-implementation of Roll Through the Ages. It's all just plastic.
Yeah, or something like Hive.
Now those ones are
Hive, bake light tiles. They just go anywhere.
The nice thing is these games are, of course, exactly the kind of thing you can bring to the pub.
Yeah, there's a new game that just came out actually. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now, but it's a game that you're meant to be played at the beach.
Oh, Seaside.
Seaside. There you go. They're like all wooden tokens, and like they're waterproof, and like they advertise like, "Hey, play this game at the beach." Yeah. I don't think I would do that. If I'm at the beach, I'm not playing a board game. First of all.
Yeah,
but I guess you could.
I wouldn't say no to a board game.
I wouldn't say no. That's true. I've never done it before, but yeah. But so there's a lot of games these days that like don't need protection, I guess.
Yeah.
Palm Island, the plastic version.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Northwoods, another plastic. Anything with plastic cards.
Plastic cards,
or dice only. Probably need very little protection. They can be played almost anywhere.
John, have you sleeved your dice ever? No.
I guess the pips could wear out. You know, if you're rolling too much, the pips could wear out.
If they're printed on and not engraved, it is possible for dice to wear out. That's true.
Yeah, I've never had that issue.
No, I don't think I play anything enough to wear out the pips on the die.
Yeah.
That would be impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a goal to shoot for.
But maybe dice capsules.
Dice capsules.
Little cute,
Or just brush some hodgepodge on your dice.
There
or
we go.
something.
Yeah.
Too fun.
Mod podge?
Mod
Mod
podge.
podge.
Don't get them too
Hodgepodge.
round, or you're just never going to finish rolling it.
Yeah, until they're round.
Yeah. Just keep
Just
going.
it's a
It's
ball.
5
It's
or
not a
6.
dice
It's in
anymore.
between. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that about ends it for today. Thanks again for watching Cardboard Mats. We like to have these discussions. We do some playthroughs, some reviews. Please like and subscribe, and let us know, where and what sleeves you prefer. Because we're always keeping an eye out for sleeves that are economical as well as functional and durable. We like many of you like to play our games, but we are worried that they're going to get damaged. I mean, I don't know if it's a human fault that we are kind of afraid to hurt something, but especially something that we love a lot, we don't want our favorite games to get wrecked.
Yeah.
So
At the same time, though, accidents happen, and it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
That's true. Yeah.
So, at the
Yeah,
end of the day,
forgive. If it's an honest mistake, try to forgive the person who wrecked your $300 Kickstarter.
especially if it's your wife.
Yeah. Or
Not
yourself.
that she has done that.
Yeah. Or yourself.
Or yourself, yeah. Yeah. Or just order 2 Kickstarter pledges, right? And then you go back up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that.
All right. See ya.
See you next time.
Right.